In this first installment of The Hotel from the Rising Sun, we explore a vampire tale and its relationship to Russian and US intelligence. Sounds nutty, but maybe not. You decide. As Rod Serling might have said, for your consideration, The Undead Deceivers.
I'm an elf and not a vampire, who saw the need for a hotel in New Orleans which caters exclusively to vampires. It's far easier for them to have a place tailored for their own special needs, and to function without having to interact with and explain to humans. So, I created the Hotel from the Rising Sun. Since our guests have lived over several lifetimes and managed to have become involved in unusual situations due to their lifestyles, I have gathered quite a bit of information and stories that I would like to share. One of those stories is the Disinformation project, which has saved many vampires and led to the demise of many of the vampires' prey, as well as even vampire hunters. Some of our younger guests who were not familiar with vampire history were in one of the sections of our lobby laughing at and ridiculing a movie about vampire slayers who protected themselves from and destroyed vampires through methods that wouldn't work. Real detection is much more difficult. Death only occurs with complete incineration, decapitation, or forced lengthy exposure to the sun. Of course, the young vampires wondered how such wrongful concepts could have started and keep propagating. I knew the story and gave them a lesson in vampire history, and now you will know also. Their elders cooked up a scheme which turned out to be the most successful project for vampire protection. There had always been folk rumors of vampires, as well as ways to detect and destroy them, but with the publication of Bram Stoker's Dracula in 1897, the fear of vampires expanded. Around the same time of the release of Stoker's book, motion picture technology was developed. Eventually, vampire-themed films appeared such as Nosferatu in 1922, feeding the fear of vampires in some members of the public. While this new notoriety was bad for vampires, some vampires saw this problematic new mass media as something which could be turned to their advantage. As often done in intelligence operations, the way to defeat your opposition is to lead it. Help the opposition along and send them on the wrong path. Since the vampires are very good with networking and planning, the decision was made to go into the film industry, becoming producers and writers in order to spread incorrect information, disinformation. Have the humans rely on mass distributed bad information. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. A false knowledge base helps avoid confrontations, or when they do happen, sets the vampire up for successful outcomes. From film, the operation seamlessly spread to television, cable, and the internet. The term disinformation is false information deliberately spread to deceive people. Although the term existed in English before the Soviet Union, it became popularized from the title of the KGB Black Propaganda Department, Desinformatsiya. Soviets created and circulated untrue news stories on a systematic and massive scale. This tradition is carried on today by the Soviet Union's successor, Russia, on various social media sites in which the Foreign Intelligence Service members portray themselves as Westerners and spread questionable information about the Russo-Ukraine war and the Russian regime. A full range of concepts were planted using psychology, religion, folktales, and pseudoscience. The concepts needed to sound very plausible, but would be quite deadly for the humans who apply them. Vampires are seen as terrible creatures, so they can't stand looking at their vampire existence. This was converted into having no reflection in a mirror. But they can be seen in mirrors. He's not a vampire, I can see him in a mirror. That is a big mistake. The idea was floated that vampires are spectral creatures, who won't show up in photographs. Oh, yes they will. Religion is used in these ruses by attaching Christian symbology to fighting vampires. The only force greater than the vampires would be God, so his symbols are used. Crucifixes repulse vampires. Both crucifixes and holy water will burn vampires on contact. But there are different solutions in fighting different forces. Symbols don't stop bullets in gunfights. Crosses and holy water won't work against vampires. A human relying on them would become a meal. Often, possession occurs when people decide to play with evil spirits, as when using a Ouija board and the evil spirits accept the invitation. Reinforce this concept with the fact that since fathers protect the household, the idea that the vampire has to be invited into the household by the oldest male in the household was created. These defenses don't work. The vampires, like burglars, invite themselves in. Paranormal folk protections against demons and malevolent spirits, such as wearing garlic and spreading salt across thresholds, were taken and grafted onto the vampire's myths. They likely won't work against evil spirits, and they certainly won't work against vampires. Driving a stake into a vampire's heart seems to make sense, since vampires exist on blood and the heart is the organ in humans which pumps blood. It seems to make sense, but doesn't work. Someone walking around with a stake in one hand and a mallet in the other reveals what they intend and can be easily assaulted from the back. The disinformation program is so effective, because those who use these methods to detect and deal with vampires don't survive. The vampire hunter or prey finds out in their last moment of life these were untrue, but can't pass on the information. The lies remain undetected to the overall population of humans. While these detection, protection and destruction ideas feel right for the humans, they are wrong, and these planted myths work for the vampires. The vampires and the Russian intelligence play this game, and so do others in similar ways. Notice how many former government insiders are providing information on the alien issue. Are they concerned for transparency, or are they misleading the opposition by leading it? Are they running interference for secret government projects created solely by humans, or trying to cover up alien activities? If one acts sincere, provides some verifiable information, and appears to be able to know insider information, one can become a leader. Problem areas and questions can be evaded by citing one's non-disclosure agreement and security laws. Those interested in reaching the truth can either use science, as I did in my videos on UAPs, or can be taken for a ride around and around a cul-de-sac by the insiders. It makes you feel like you are traveling, but in reality, you aren't getting anywhere. Unlike the vampire and Russian intelligence operations, they usually won't lie to you, but the journey they will take you on is designed not to take you to the truth. Instead, the idea is for you to exhaust yourself focused on the shell game they have created. How do you really know what you do? And there is more. Maybe we will get to that later. As always, drop by the Hotel from the Rising Sun for interesting insights and ways of analyzing things in ways you haven't before.